Hello, my loves, and welcome to the Higher Love with Megan podcast with me, your host, Megan Cooper. For those of you who haven't met me before, I am a holistic health and nutrition coach, a 500-hour yoga and meditation teacher, and an EFT practitioner. I focus on a mind, body, soul approach to healing and well-being. I live in Brighton on the south coast of the UK, where I've been since March 2020. Before that, I lived abroad for 3.5 years, firstly in Australia and then in beautiful Bali. And before that, I spent 5 years in London. My life is health, fitness, and ocean-filled. Yes, if you follow my Instagram, I am one of those Brighton crazies that swims in the sea all year round. In this first solo episode, I'm going to give you a snapshot of my last 10 years of life, embarking on a path to holistic well-being, picking out some of the key highlights and events, some up, some down, that brought me to where I am today. 10 years ago, I'd graduated with an art history degree from Cambridge University and got a job working in the city as an insurance broker. Sometimes when people meet me today with my nose ring and tattoos and somewhat hippie vibes, they can scarcely see me as a corporate city girl. However, that is indeed where I spent the first 4 years of my career. I'm glad that I did, but suffice to say, it turned out to not be my true calling or path in life. I did discover yoga, though, working in the city, aged 23, only though because I had a sports injury and my physio recommended/insisted that I try yoga as a last resort because we were running out of options to cure the chronic pain of my shin splints. I, of course, thought that yoga was for weirdos. And I wasn't disappointed upon attending my first class. Instead, I tried hot yoga and went along to my first Bikram class, wondering what the hell all these people were doing, voluntarily enduring 90 minutes of torture in 40-degree heat. However, after 3 weeks, my chronic pain was gone and I was converted. Over the next 2 years, I went to Bikram most mornings before work, over which time I became progressively less angry and less fiery and less stressed. I felt more disciplined. I felt better about myself. I enjoyed moving. I appreciated my body more. I noticed, in fact, an upheaval across the board with my physical, mental, and emotional well-being. On the flip side, though, I still partied extremely hard. So I led this kind of double life, working hard, playing hard, in equally glorious and excessive amounts. I loved yoga, but I wasn't committed to being healthy. It was not entirely unheard of for me to light up a cigarette straight after a yoga class. And I did party a lot. I'm very good at it. It's an epic talent of mine. And although my life has changed a lot after I became aware of how good my body can actually feel on a day-to-day basis, my love of dance and music has infused my life in a super positive way. Those who work with me now find that I'm very grounded and very no bullshit around health and well-being. Something one of my dear yoga teachers, Deep, says always resonates with me. The key to life is taking it sincerely, but not seriously. When I was 25, I had one of my first life-affirming epiphanies. For years, I'd had a lot of fun, working hard, playing hard. But on this particular night, I'd gone out to a club for Halloween at about 5 a.m. in this huge club with speakers in the floor and speakers in the ceiling, riddled with all sorts of illegal, and for the purposes of this podcast and my own legal standing, unrecommended substances. I had a huge shock to my system. Despite how high I was struck with how sad and empty I felt underneath. I went home and I curled up into bed and arose the next morning, catching myself in the mirror. I'd left on my Halloween makeup, comprising a sheet white face, smeared red lipstick, and big black eyes. I looked half dead, and I felt it too. I knew that I needed to change my life in that moment. I needed to totally redesign it in a way that felt more like me. The practical application of that ended up taking a while, but certainly in that moment, the seed was sown. I did end up quitting my corporate career and pursuing my passion for yoga. Over the last 6 months of working in insurance, I'd studied as a yoga teacher at weekends, and the tables eventually turned where I mustered up the courage to quit my career, even though I was now working in the up until then dream job of working in fine art insurance. It was a big move, and maybe I wouldn't even have made it if it wasn't for my father encouraging me to do something radical in pursuit of feeling fulfillment. But it also felt organic and natural, like it wasn't even negotiable. What I understand now to be intuition. Even pursuing something I loved, however, I still felt this kind of existential angst that I'd felt since being a teenager. Sometimes it was low level, there in the background. Sometimes it was immensely palpable. I described it as feeling overwhelmed by my underwhelm. I felt underwhelmed with the world, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why. I assumed that I'd been born with maybe a part of my brain just missing, or a part of my brain just wired wrong. Maybe the bit that seemed to allow everyone else around me to just feel content. It just felt like there was more, like I could feel it at the edges of my fingertips, but it was just beyond my reach. I decided to learn how to meditate. I think what I was looking for was a spiritual connection, but I just didn't have the framework for it. I didn't know it existed outside of conventional religion and what had been available to me up until then. I needed people like Gabrielle Bernstein, Deepak Chopra, David G., Carl Gray, Eckhart Tolle, people, in fact, who, when I discovered their work, I sobbed all the happy tears. Anyway, never one to do anything by halves, I went on a week-long silent meditation retreat, having never meditated before in my life. At this silent retreat, after 3 agonizing days of wondering why the hell I was there, sat with all these loopy people, probably that I'd made a massive mistake being here and needed to leave pronto, I felt it. While meditation sitting, focusing our attention on different parts and energy centers in the body, when I got to my heart, I literally felt it burst open. When I describe this experience, it sounds rather abstract, but I literally felt my heart open, like I was witnessing this cosmic energy exchange between me and the world around me. It was without doubt the most beautiful moment of my life. So beautiful that I barely wanted to move in case I disrupted it. So beautiful that I had tears streaming down my cheeks. When I went outside, it was like seeing the world for the first time again, in HD, full of color and life and vibrancy. That week instilled in me a deep sense that we are always held and supported, that we are all interconnected. The deep sense of disconnection that I'd felt for so many years literally disintegrated in that moment. It was an antidote to ever needing to feel alone again. My whole life, perspective, outlook, understanding of the world changed in a split of a second. The reason I'm sharing this moment is because as coaches, as healers, as teachers, as counselors or practitioners, often our call into the light, so to speak, came from pain or challenge or disconnection. And when you look at people on Instagram or on social media who live a life centered around health and well-being, you don't always see every single step of that process that it took for them to get there. I only found connection and belonging through disconnection and the deep yearning to heal that within my own life. To this day, meditation has profoundly changed and continues to shape and support my life. Of course, from the moment of this epiphany, it did still take a little longer to actually align my life, cue a little bit more partying and merriment. But let's fast forward to later that year when I moved to Australia. It was here in Australia that after 8 months without a period, I finally went to go and see the doctor, mainly to check that I wasn't dying because I was quite happy to not have periods. So inconvenient, right? Of course, I was corrected by my doctor that this was, in fact, not normal. I had scans and I had blood tests, and a consultation with a specialist endocrinologist confirmed her diagnosis of PCOS. I was told by the consultant that this was incurable, that there was nothing that I could do, that I might struggle with my fertility, I might struggle to always control my side effects, having gained 2 stone, having experienced acne. And I was prescribed the contraceptive pill because that would prevent it from at least getting worse. Despite knowing nothing, and I repeat, nothing about health, I just felt this wasn't my reality, and I decided to take matters into my own hands. I wasn't surprised, to be honest, that something had finally packed in with my body, having basically filled my body with crap for the past decade. I wondered what would happen if I just unpicked all of my bad habits and did instead the opposite. I set about on this crusade to fix my body and regain my long lost period. Because I knew nothing about health, and there certainly wasn't the access to the same level of information that we have now in terms of blogs or Instagram influencers when it comes to hormones and health, I worked intuitively with my body. What that means is I would try a dietary or lifestyle shift, and if it felt good, I would keep doing it. If it made no difference, I'd drop it. But in all honesty, I changed everything about my diet and my health. I received so many messages from girls asking what I did to heal my hormones, and I wish that there was a magic pill. Instead, I had to get radical with everything. I had to get radical with my stress levels. I had to get radical with my self-talk. With all of the weight that I've been piling on as a side effect of PCOS, I've been beating myself up. I'd been going into changing rooms, trying on clothes and crying. I'd been catching myself in mirrors and in car windows and shop fronts, telling myself how awful I looked. Every single time that happened on my healing journey, I had to catch myself and instead instill a positive thought in my own mind. Therefore, it became the biggest journey of self-love that I've probably experienced. I recognized that I had to accept my body just as she was right now and really work with her as against her. I understand that when you have a hormone condition or possibly any health condition, it can feel like your body is working against you. What I realized is that your body is always trying to work for you. And as I was trying to get my period back, all I wanted to do was support my body. I wanted to create the space and the conditions that would just allow her to heal. And I unpicked every single bad habit that I had. And I learned to eat well, to live well, to sleep better, all of the things that my body naturally needed in order to heal. It was an epic act of self-love and devotion that I embarked upon. 5 months later, I got my period back, and tests and scans a year on confirmed there was no trace of PCOS in my body. I say all this not as an advert for what is and what is not possible in your healing, nor to preach about what healing regimens are best. This is simply my own experience, and I don't mean to offend or trigger anyone who is going through something similar. Going through hormonal issues is complete and utter shit. There's no easy way about it. It really sucks. The side effects, the symptoms, the way you feel in your body, the frustration, the bewilderment, I get it. I felt it all. And I cried an awful lot during those months. But the dramatic and downright staggering change that I brought about in my body through shifting my habits was what drove me to study holistic health and nutrition, a 1-year training with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. I wanted to understand the body chemistry, the science, the nutritional explanation, the cellular healing that I delivered to my body. Before changing my diet, I just thought that a healthy diet was low calories. I didn't realize what it was to actually eat well. I realize now that the biggest gift that you can deliver anyone is enabling them to feel empowered within their own healing. because our body is always trying to heal itself, sometimes in weird and wonderful ways that we might not understand or like, but our body is always doing its best. The best thing that we can do is support that process. The least that we can do is get out of the way. After a year in Australia, I went to Bali with the intention of staying perhaps just a few months. But as soon as I arrived, I knew that I was going to live there a long time. Bali to me is my soul home. It's there that I met so many of my soul family, people who have expanded me, nourished me, supported me, and continue to be my best friends. After 2.5 glorious years in Bali, I arrived back in the UK at the start of the pandemic. At this time, I started to become really interested in the body on a deeper level. I was doing daily shakeouts and cathartic movement, and I started practicing Qigong to cope with and process the collective trauma that we were all experiencing. Having already done my 500-hour yoga teacher training, I studied a course in yoga therapy, understanding more about the nervous system. I began to delve into how we store emotions and thoughts in the body, how we hold trauma in the cells, which over time manifest into aches or pains or even sickness and dis-ease. I became increasingly fascinated with the more subtle energetics of the body, and very organically too started tapping or doing EFT, which works directly on the nervous system, the meridian channels, and the subconscious. This year, I studied to be an EFT practitioner, and I am increasingly obsessed with the subconscious mind and our somatic experience. We spend so much time working with the conscious mind, often without delving into what is actually driving us, being our stories and our beliefs and our patterns held within subconscious. Once we change those and identify our trauma patterns, that's when the real expansion happens in our life. And I've enjoyed this new level of depth in my coaching and my work. So there we have it. Over the past 10 years, I've been on a journey to heal through the layers, to heal my body, to heal my mind, and to heal my soul. One of my dearest friends in Bali labeled this as my higher love journey, a journey of shifting our very vibration, letting go of our past patterns and paradigms, and welcoming in love of a higher and higher frequency. What started as 2 words tattooed on my forearm stuck as a whole ethos for my work and who I am today. It's taken some time. It's still a work in progress. It's taken a lot of commitment and an ever-open beginner's mind to unravel the different layers of myself and discover the truth of who I am. I never in a million years would have imagined myself being here, learning about generational and ancestral trauma, past lives, connecting to spirit guides and angels, and biohacking. It's been one hell of a journey, one that continues to amaze and excite me every single day. I can't wait to share more of my lessons and insights through this podcast and introduce you to people who have inspired and educated me along the way. We have so much to learn from one another, especially at this crucial time in our humanity. And if any of these episodes spark a fire in you, my intention will have been met. I can't wait to see you next time. In the meantime, big love.